Hey, everybody. Welcome to Girls Who Print Fierce Fabulous Fridays. Today, we're going to talk about from vision to victory, getting everything you want in 2025. I always like to start off these sessions with some facts. According to the World Economic Forum, women globally are underrepresented in leadership roles, holding only 32% of senior positions, while 6.2 of CEOs are women in major companies, only 6.2%. The pay gap is still here, with women earning between 75 and 86 cents for every dollar earned by men in similar executive roles. And on average, women take 5 years longer than men to rise from entry-level positions to management, and that is due to systematic barriers, fewer networking opportunities, caregiving responsibilities, and general bias in the workplace. Fixing that in the bigger picture requires structural changes and targeted development programs. And some of you out there might be in a position to implement those company changes and develop outreach programs or influence them. So please do that. But individually, what we can do is increase our visibility through speaking, through writing, and skills gathering through continued education, so you can close the gap yourself. Nobody's coming to close that gap for you, and that is what our focus is on today. From vision to victory, get what you want in 2025. This is your moment to step into the driver's seat of your career and claim the future that you deserve. Over the next hour, we're going to talk about practical strategies for setting bold career, team, and business goals, and provide a 10-step plan for achieving them, which we'll also send to everybody who registered for the webinar. So this discussion is designed to empower you to take action and make it so, and turn 2025 into your breakthrough year. As we have learned in the past from guests that we've had on sessions, they always provide a lot of really practical advice. Sandy Hubbard's actually here now. She's somebody you can always count on to chime in and provide really practical advice and thoughts about careers. And in the past, we got some amazing advice from a woman named Vanessa Carr. She works at Domtar Paper. And she said that she no longer looks at her career as a career ladder where you have to continually be climbing up the top. That instead, she now looks at her career as a lattice, that sometimes you have to make a parallel move to move over into another division, to move up further than maybe you could get, or move somewhere to acquire the skills that you need for your next job, and so on and so forth with that. And the reason why I'm bringing that up now is because my contribution to this conversation is a bigger picture career goal setting, in the sense that, you know, we always talk about it's not the destination, it's the journey. But in this case, I actually want to focus on the journey to the destination and working backwards from the destination. What is it that you want? Do you want to be a manager within the next 3 years? Do you want to own a company within the next 3 years? Do you want to move to Bora Bora to retire? All of these things are possible, and you can make them happen if you start at the end point and work backwards to everything you need to make that goal happen. So in certain cases, you don't always know what it is that you want. And I think that, even now, I mean, you would say I have a job, you would say I have a career, but every year I still have to think about, what do I want to do and how am I going to make that happen? And when it comes to that, sometimes I don't exactly know. But if, for example, I know that I'm going to be working on more video next year, then maybe it's time for me to take a class on how to learn how to make my own animated titles and things like that. Like, so I don't necessarily have to always know 100% what I want to do, but there's no reason for me or anyone else to remain static when you can at least assess certain things without committing to anything. For example, right now, I think in 5 years, I want to end up being the manager of a global, marketing team. Okay, what are some of the skills that those people have, I mean, you could go to LinkedIn and literally search the title and see what those people are saying. Do you know how to write a business plan? Maybe you start there. Do you know how to um you know uh motivate people in a proactive way? So these are little things that could help in all the time, but are skills that you can develop toward even a ballpark of a goal. Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this that it is a journey and a destination, kind of holding both of those things at the same time. But what we talked about is everybody imagine that it's December 31st of 2025, and you individually and perhaps a member of your team, or even, Deborah, this could be you and I with Girls Who Print. Imagine any scenario in which you're at that moment and you go, God, this was an amazing year. I accomplished what I set out to accomplish, right? I made a lot of really important things happen for myself that I intentionally planned. How did that happen, y'all? What did you do? Right? So it's a reverse engineering of thinking, what things do I need to take? Like Deborah said, what classes do I need to take? We got to get out of our own heads a little bit too. We are limiting ourselves by believing that there are things we can't do or we don't know how to do. When, as you said, Deborah, there's a video for that. There's a YouTube video for that. And something we didn't talk about earlier that I'm a little bit sorry that I didn't mention in the earlier session, artificial intelligence has a tremendous amount of resources available to us. If we were to say, what are the 5 major skill sets of a manager of a global marketing department, right? And once we have that framework, then we can go and fill in the gaps, because you are not alone. You're not expected to do this alone, nor can you do this alone. So it is about the network that you build, the mentors that you access, and the ways that you just access every tool available to you in order to get you to those places. So that's the tactical, kind of practical stuff that we're going to talk about. But we can't make something happen if we don't name it, point to it, and set ourselves off in that direction. Right, Deborah?
Yeah, 100%. And I loved the concept of, okay, it's this time of the year next year, and you're looking back on, you had this great year, and what were the components of it, or what would make you say that? Is it more sales? Is it more members on the Girls Who Print LinkedIn group? Is it more exposure, visibility in the industry? Did you do a TED talk that is on Kelly's vision to victory list? And it's about working backwards to achieve that. If you want to be happy about that thing next year at this time, what do you need to do to make that happen? Do you have to make 3 more sales calls a day to make more sales? Do you have to watch 40 hours of TED Talks until you feel like there's a formula that you have, extrapolated from it and you could apply it to what you're doing? Or maybe it's just thinking about a topic for a TED Talk. But the point is that, like sharks, we always have to be in forward motion. Sharks cannot stop swimming. It's impossible. They're dead if they stop swimming. They constantly have to put oxygen into their gills and keep moving. And that's what we all need to be moving forward, is woman sharks, female sharks. Shark, I'll think of a cool name for it at some
Yeah.
point. But do you want to say anything else before we go over to Sarah's video?
I think there's a lot of really good stuff in the video, and then we can talk about it afterwards because it's just chock full of good tactical information. So,
Okay, excellent. So I was able to ask Sarah Ohanesian, who is the CEO of So Productive. She's a productivity coach. We did a podcast called Time Management Tips in 20. And she's really just a wealth of information and support when, we all want to do these things, but how do we possibly find the time to get them done, especially when it's for yourself, because that a lot of times, unfortunately, is what falls to the bottom of the to-do list when other people need things from us. So I'm going to share the video with everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this great session. December 6th, we are starting December strong and getting you all prepped and ready for 2025, which is just around the corner. So my goal for you is to help you to get from vision to victory. I love that title. That's our theme for today for Girls Who Print event. And I want to be able to give you some strategies for today that you can implement immediately so that you can reach all of your goals, whatever those goals are that you have for 2025. So my wish for you is that you can really leave every day of 2025, whether you're leaving the office or your workplace, just feeling like you did enough. Like you did enough today. Like you got enough of the right things done so that you can take a break to do things with people you love and do the things that you love. And here's the key, and not feel guilty about it. That's what I want for you in 2025. So just a little quick thing about me. I'm Sarah Ohanesian. I know I've probably talked to so many of you before at various Girls Who Print events throughout the year, but I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a corporate trainer. I do some coaching and consulting, and I'm the creator of a company called So Productive. And how I got there was I was a busy chief marketing officer. I was on top of my career, running a multi-billion-dollar business, respected by my peers. But in the meantime, what I started to realize what was happening to me, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but I became a burnout-aholic. I was suffering from chronic burnout. And inside, I realized my stress was getting really out of control. It was starting to control me. I was leaving work late every single night without an ounce of energy or mental capacity left for my friends or for my family. And today now I create programs because I know what it feels like. Trust me, I do, to be distracted all day, to make key decisions all day, to have everybody tugging for your attention. And then you get home at night and like your spouse says, well, what's for dinner? Or someone asks you, what do you want to do tonight? And that's the thing that kind of puts you over the edge. So as a busy chief marketing officer at the end of the day and sometimes the nighttime, I couldn't process one more thing. And I couldn't be fully present with my loved ones. I lived to work. I was exhausted. I felt weak. And I realized over time that I was really essentially a walking zombie. So I created simple systems to get back control of my day and my life. And at that time, I had dozens of products to market internationally and hundreds of staff members to manage. My dog gets fired up about this too. I had to develop systems and processes that worked for me so that I could get more done during the day. And it worked. I started accomplishing more. I started leaving the office during daylight and running a sustainable race towards success. And now I help busy professionals do the same. So like I said, I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, I've got courses and coaching. But all of that to say, I have been there too, and I understand. So today I've got three core takeaways for you that can help make 2025 your most productive year yet. So the first way is to get clarity. And if you've listened to any of the podcasts that Deborah and I have recorded or some of the other sessions that I've done for the Girls Who Print universe, the Printerverse, is that clarity is really the key. Clarity is the key to understanding, well, what do you need to be working on? What is most important? What is most impactful? So I believe clarity is your key to productivity and getting more done. First, I talk a lot about getting stuff out of your head. We've got all this stuff in our heads, floating around in our heads. What is the thing? What is the thing, the goal, the thing that you want to work on that is going to be the most impactful for you? Because too often what I see happen is we get stuck in the weeds of our work. An email pops in and we respond to it. The phone rings and we respond to that. A Teams message pops up and we respond to that. And we get so fixated on all the problems at hand that we end up just working harder and harder and harder just to solve those problems as they pop up. But we're not really moving ahead. I think of this like a game of whack-a-mole. If you've ever played whack-a-mole before, the little mole pops up and you've got a mallet and you whack the mole. And then the other one pops up and you whack the mole. Or your dog comes in and you have to pet them. But one of those things, those moles popping up, that's how so many of us are spending our day and our time. And that's where our attention goes. So my challenge for you coming out of this and to get that clarity that you need is to ask 2 critical questions every time a new mole pops up. So every time someone says, can you help me with this? Can you do this thing for me? You get an email, you get a text message, you get a Teams message. Every time that happens, pause and ask those 2 critical questions. What is it and why does it matter? What is it and why does it matter? Because those 2 critical questions are going to help you get all the clarity you need for what's on your plate. Most importantly, by asking those 2 questions, what is it and why does it matter? You might realize you actually don't have to do that thing at all. You can actually possibly delete that item. Now, I've got a pro tip for you as you're doing this exercise. What is it? Why does it matter? Where do I need to put these things? My pro tip for you here is to have 2 different types of to-do lists, because what happens to a lot of us is we've got this big long list of all these things we have to do, and it's too much. It's overwhelming. So my recommendation is to split these things into ideas. Those are things you're going to save for later. You're going to do those things later. And 1 for actions. Start to think of your to-do list as an action list instead. Because if it's an idea, if it's a fleeting thought, if it's something you can accomplish right now, it doesn't go on your to-do list, which is a mistake a lot of people make. It goes on your idea list. A place to jot down everything you think of so you don't forget it. You feel like it's in a safe place, but you're not wasting time trying to remember it. So if you're brainstorming something or you're going to do something later or you're thinking about it, or maybe there's books you want to read or restaurants you want to try, those things go on your idea list. You want to save those things for later. They're great thoughts. You don't want to lose them, but they're going to overcrowd your to-do list, make you feel like there's more things that you have to do, and they could potentially overwhelm you. So instead, the action list. The action list is the place to store things that you can actually do. Everything in one place, giving you a holistic view of what's on your plate. Now, here's a critical thing about the action list. Only things that can be done, like you yourself could complete those things, go on your action list. You can either check them off as complete, incomplete, done, not done, really simple. But those things should be actionable and specific. Because with a good action list in place, when someone asks you to do something and you pause and you say, okay, what is it and why does it matter? When you can look at your action list, you can actually start to judge, oh, is this something that is more important than something that's already on my action list? Or is this item something that I want to keep on my idea list and maybe save it for later? So that naturally gets us into this conversation around priorities. We all believe we can achieve our goals. You're sitting here at the end of 2024, looking ahead at 2025, thinking, I've got goals. I've got things that I want to accomplish. But why is it that reaching our goals are so hard? Why is it so hard to reach those goals? Well, quite simple. Because you need time, which very few of us have, and you need focused attention to actually work on those goals. It's that simple. But what happens day after day is that we allow urgent work, we allow other people's things and fires to get in the way of what are our priorities. So when setting your priorities, I think it's really vital for you to have this, essentially this vision, right? We talked about that earlier, this vision to victory. What is the vision that you have for a little bit long term, but in the next couple of years? What is that vision that you have? And you might be thinking, oh gosh, I don't know. I just want a simple solution. I just want something that's going to be easy for me to solve immediately. But stay with me for a second, because if you're tired of saying, well, I didn't get anything done today, or I was interrupted all day, and you're frustrated by that, hang on a second. Do work every single day that contributes toward those goals. Now, you might have a big goal and you might know exactly what that is, or you might not be so sure. You're not exactly clear what that goal is, but you kind of have a sense of what it could be. This can be general, but generally knowing where you are headed. Where are you headed? So right now, I'm asking a very simple question that many adults stopped asking themselves years and years ago. What do you want? What do you want that goal to be? What is that victorious thing that you want to accomplish? What's that vision that you have? Because when there's too many things on our plate and there's too many things to do, and the to-do list, everything on it looks equally important, understanding the reason why you're doing something and why it matters and how it contributes to that greater vision you have, that's going to be the difference between you prioritizing it and not. I like to think of this as the North Star. It's essentially the guide. And that helps us to determine what are our priorities, what should we be saying no to, and it helps this fog of a really overwhelming to-do list, it helps to lift it. So what is yours? Maybe you know exactly, you're like, I know exactly what my vision is for 2025. I know what I want to accomplish. And maybe some of you are like, I really don't know. And this could be as simple as, I just want to learn a new skill. So I know Deborah is talking about this today, but when you're breaking down big things, I like to break them down into key projects. So let's say you want to learn a new skill. What are those key projects that you have to take on in 2025 to make that possible for you? So let's say you want to learn a new skill. Maybe your projects are read a book about it, learn a little bit about it. Maybe you want to save up a little bit of money so that you could take an online course about those things. But take that bigger goal and just break it down into those smaller, actionable, that's the key, actionable, bite-sized pieces. What tasks do you need to do as part of that project to make that possible and to make that true, make you accomplish that? What are those things that you have to do? And I like to do this. I like to take at the first day of every single month. I like to look ahead. I like to look at my goal for the year and think, what do I need to do this month that is impactful? And that's really the key. What is an impactful goal that I have this month that's going to get me closer to the year-long goal that I'm trying to accomplish? One impactful push towards that goal. One thing I can do this month that's going to make me feel like, yeah, I am getting ahead on those goals. Now, there's a quote I love: no amount of action can ever make up for misalignment. If a plane leaves LAX in Los Angeles and it's going to JFK in New York, and it is just 1 degree off course, it is going to be hundreds of miles of where it's supposed to be when it's intended to land at JFK. So if your goals and if what you're working on every day, if the things on your calendar aren't putting you on course to go to JFK, you're going to end up at the wrong airport. And think about how much time that would have wasted and frustration. And in a year, you're going to think, oh gosh, I'm at the wrong airport because I didn't make progress towards those goals. So that's the first step, is to really get clear on what is it? Why does it matter? What is my vision? Taking those, what seems like a big project, and breaking them down into smaller, actionable pieces that you can actually accomplish. Deborah and I also always talk about eating the elephant one bite at a time. It's really hard to eat an elephant. I'm really not that hungry. But one bite at a time. You can do the same for your goals. Now, the second way to be more productive this year is to just stop managing your time. We're always worried about time management and how do we manage time? Well, with your priorities in order, when you know what those priorities are, there's 2 ways that you can better manage time, because you really can't manage time. But what you can do instead is manage your attention and manage your distractions. And so my recommendation for you is that you do a quick audit. Just think about, where am I spending my time? Like an audit of how I'm actually spending my time. And then what are those things that are distracting me during those time periods? Can be quite eye-opening. Just spend the next day thinking about, how do I spend my time? And what are the things that distract me? And if you've got physical distractions like a dog or something that is really consistently disrupting you, what can you do about it? And then if there's a mental distraction, what's the root cause of that thing? You know, sometimes we blame a mental distraction, but it could just be that you don't really value that thing that you're working on. So what's that root reason? Like, what's the blockage that is getting in the way? And then try to eliminate any of those distractions. This will be giving you a great ability to better focus and to be productive with the time we have. Again, we cannot manage time, but you can manage your attention and your distractions and what you're focused on. Okay, then the third way is to set boundaries and then clearly communicate those boundaries. Because I run into a lot of people who have said, I've got goals, but everything's getting in the way. The week becomes a runaway train and I'm losing track of all my time. Well, that's because your boundaries are really in flux. So setting those boundaries is critical. Setting your boundaries and your expectations. So let's start with a couple of easy ones, perhaps. What hours will you be working? That's a great healthy boundary. How many hours of the week are you going to be working? When are you going to stop checking email and responding to email for the day? When are you essentially going to be done for the day? Another one I like to think about are, what modes of communication make the most sense? So are you going to be able to text with your boss around the clock? Or is that something that you're like, no, you can't text me after hours. That's a boundary that I'm firm on. I can't say what that is for you, but in your business, in your line of work, what makes sense? What's a healthy boundary that you might want to have? And then some other things, what can you stop letting go of? What things do you not have to do anymore? What's just not worth it to you anymore? What are those things that maybe you did for years, but now you're like, yeah, I don't actually have to do those things anymore. So what are those things for you? And then what are the things that you could potentially outsource? What are those things? So think about those. Those are all things around boundaries that you can have. Now, the key with boundaries, I've run into a lot of clients who say, I'm great with boundaries. Of course I know my boundaries. Well, did you communicate those boundaries to anyone else? Because what good are those boundaries if we're actually not communicating them to people? To our team, to the people that we live with. We have to be clear on what those boundaries are for ourselves, and then also be open to communicate those so everyone can also respect our boundaries. So we talked about a lot of different action items today, but in summary, 3 key ways that I think you can really reach your goals that can be kind of easy and sustainable for you, because I don't want to give you things that are hard to accomplish. But what are those things you could actually do? We can all do this. We can set those priorities and be really clear on what those are. Be really clear on what is it and why does it matter. And then the second is to stop managing time. Start managing your attention. Start managing your distractions instead. And then the third step is to set those boundaries and clearly communicate what those boundaries are. With those 3 things in mind, I know you are going to reach your goals in 2025. I am here for you and cheering you on. But before we go, I want you to think about what resonated most, because I gave you a lot of different tips and takeaways today, but what is the one thing that resonated most for you during this session? What's the one thing? And I want to encourage you to type this in the chat, to write it down, to text this to a friend, but what's the one thing that resonated most? And then my challenge for you is that you implement that one thing starting tomorrow. Implement that one thing starting tomorrow. And since I'm all about accountability, please, again, put in the chat, write it down, because I want to make sure that you are implementing that one key takeaway from today. Thank you.
Sarah. It gets me every time. Stop managing time, manage your attention, manage your distractions. I am a I go down the TikTok rabbit hole during the day, by the way. I say, okay, I'm going to give myself, a few minutes just to see what's going on, see how my turtle and his cat friend are doing. I love that damn turtle and cat. And half an hour later, 45 minutes later, I'm like, what did I just do? What did I just do? Although, yes, I needed a little mental break and, oh, Kathy, you love the turtle and the cat. It's the best. So the whole point is that you know, I have to stop doing that. And my phone is actually holds me accountable because it tells me my screen time every week. So I like the weeks that says you've been on this phone less. So that's my accountability with it. What about you? Any other more takeaways from?
Yeah, because you just saying that actually kind of shed a different spotlight on the idea of managing the attention and the distractions. I have found I started doing this with my personal life a while ago, which was to say, this is not for me, right? So I could better manage all of those little micro time sucks that happened on Facebook and different things by going, this has nothing to do with me. This is not for me. So I'm not going to get involved in that. Now I need to apply that, I think, to the work side of things. But yeah, to your point, it isn't a reward. It isn't a break. It absolutely is a distraction
Yeah.
from the things. And so, yes, it's super. I mean, I love the turtle too with his little skateboard. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. But and I think there are so many concentric circles with what Sarah's talking about, because maybe there are some that could be rolled into a boundary. I will, a typical one is to not let yourself get derailed by a request. I just did it yesterday. I was in the middle of doing stuff, and then this request came in and I stopped everything I was doing, ruined my momentum to go work on this other thing. And now after listening to Sarah a couple times, I'm like, you have to find a way to not let every interruption derail your momentum.
Yeah. I know somebody who only checks their email twice a day. That's it. So they either read your email in the morning and respond to it, or they read it at sometime in the afternoon and they respond to it. And other than that, they keep their email off. So it's nothing is dinging, pinging, and ringing or anything like a phone call. And somebody else, well, what I do is I block off my calendar so that I know that I have like time for myself to get things done. And then also what I've been doing lately is two other little bit of a crazy thing. You should just say, well, you should be in control of yourself. But if you can't, then use a tool, right? So one of the things I do is I keep my cell phone in the other room. So I can't just automatically grab for it when I have something's loading on my screen. Oh, let me just look and see what's going on here, and then for me, I get sucked into the rabbit hole sometimes. So if I'm really working on something important, I put my phone in the other room so I don't get distracted by it. And also, I am on a Mac, which allows you to mute your notifications, which I've been doing lately too, because like you, that bell goes off, I hear an email ding, and back in my advertising days, like, what's going on? I need to know right now. You can't wait like an hour to look. And what you said is so important, Kelly, because it also messes up your like what you're doing, your focus. And now you've got to pull yourself back into that great train of thought you had for a presentation or a great email you were writing. You have to reread the whole thing, or a post, or whatever it might be. So I completely agree with what you're just saying. We do have a really quick 10 slides on how to get started on all this. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen, and then we will go through them pretty quickly. So Kelly, you can see my screen. Everything's cool.
I can see it. You look great.
I mean, I look great. It looks great.
It looks great.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay, so basically, this is just reiterating everything that we reviewed on the webinar, but with a clear action and a clear way to start, like what should go on your to-do list. Because again, if you look at the task or the skill that you want to learn in a giant thing, if you put learn Adobe Creative Suite on your to-do list, well, that can't come off your to-do list until you've learned it. Instead of start with researching what something online, what are the benefits, or what are the new features of Adobe that I might want to focus on first, and things of that nature. So create a clear goal statement. What is it that you want to accomplish? Now, Kelly, you call this a mission statement. So if you want to chime in on that before we move to the next slide.
Yeah, it was when I was doing research for this topic, that was one of the things that came up, is that there's a lot of information in the mission, because it really does connect your intention to an actual tangible goal. So my one of the things that rose to the top for me is this idea of giving a TED Talk quality speech. And we talked earlier about that elephant concept, right? That's the elephant. So the bite size items that might lead to that are practicing, finding topics that resonate, figuring out ways to get myself onto the stage. So that requires cultivating relationships with people who are in a position to put me on the stage, right? It is showing how many little steps there are that take you to those bigger goals. But until we really do answer that question that Sarah asked us, what do you want?
Right. And why does it matter? Because if you
Right.
connect it to why it matters to you, I
Right.
want to retire in Bora Bora. That's why this matters. It's going to help me make more money so I can do that. I'm going to network with more people who have access to people who can help me further my Adobe skills, or whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
creating an emotional attachment to your goal, because it's your goal. It should, and keep it on the top of your to-do list and topical. So start off by researching and defining your own goal, whatever it might be. Evaluate where you are in achieving that goal. I was using an example of Adobe Creative Suite because it was actually something I investigated in uh, learning how to be better at it. And, what I first did was I looked for classes, and they were a little expensive. So I started looking for ways that YouTube and other tutorials out there that Adobe might have could help me. So that's what goes on my to-do list. Find an online place where you can learn. And then, of course, devote time to learning it. After you do all of your research, pick the final platform, and then go in there and start putting on your to-do list. This is what I'm going to this is the one that I'm going to be working with moving forward, and just that's it. Commit to it and move forward from there. Create a schedule. This is your time. If watch one video a week, watch 2 videos a week, read a book, listen to a podcast, get an audio book. I was thinking about this today because now learning Creative Suite's a little different because you sort of have to see it. But if it's another type of skill, if it's a skill that you can learn through listening comprehension, then how much time do you spend in your car? What are you listening to in there? There's tons of free podcasts that you can get, audio books. Like, there's always a way to figure out how to do it. And if you don't want to interfere with your work schedule, then make it your car schedule. And if you're in the car every day from 8 to 9 a.m. or 9 to 10 a.m., then that's the time you block off. You don't accept the phone calls, and that's your learning time. It's your time, is the whole. No one is coming to help you close these gaps but yourself. Start off with the basics. Sticking with my Adobe example, what do I actually know? I know like 5 of the 300 tools that are in there. So going to a beginner course would be a good place for me to start. Even though I can do some things, I would still consider myself a beginner. Maybe I am, a little better than that, and I can start higher up. But the thing is that decide what level you're on and take the first course. That's what is the next thing that goes on your to-do list in this journey. Accountability, getting feedback from other people. Is this the best place to learn? Has anybody tried doing this? Does anyone know what this tool does? I've been watching tutorials and I still can't figure out how it works. Request feedback from peers, from people in the Girls Who Print group who have these jobs, who might be able to help. And Girls Who Print is next year, as we manifest our new membership program, we're going to have an Ask the Expert session, which will be great because I could go in there and say, how do you use the gradient tool? Anybody out there? But I did mention mentoring is on this slide. So I want you to speak about that, Kelly. But the other thing I want to say about going out and seeking help, in the Girls Who Print group, or just making a comment like, oh, who knew, I'm 40 something years old and here I am learning a new skill, and or something that you've learned that's important on your journey. And it really is a personal branding moment too. Like, oh, look at this person who has, is spending time learning new skills to help her customers or help herself or help her company succeed. So it's also a personal branding moment, but about mentorship, Kel.
Yeah, so the mentorship program that we've have formally had going for the last few years is really turning into a very robust kind of community. And mentorship can look different depending on where you are, whether you're the mentor or the mentee. Sometimes it's as simple as a person needs help solving one singular problem and it's one conversation and it's over. Others are longer relationships. I've had my probably longest standing mentee, it's going on 5 years and we still connect on a regular basis. But it is really important, and it's a way, again, you're talking about feedback here. But one example of this that I wanted to talk about is when I am having a conversation with somebody who either needs a mentor or wants to be a mentor, and I understand a little bit more about them, I've been able to kind of go out into the world and pick a particular person that I know has the skill set to solve that. And I don't even think I told you this, Deborah, but one of the pairs that I just matched was a college student to a high school student. And that felt so great because I can only imagine. I mean, number one, that high school student is getting an unbelievably great access to something, right? But that college student, imagine how flattered and how empowered she feels now by actually being able to be, kind of the more senior member of that pair.
I just want
So,
to interject for 1 second.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
also goes back to what we learned at Girls Who Print Day. Like, the Gen Zs function better in their own pairs together
that's
with
right.
each other. So I love that.
And when I have reached out to somebody who hadn't applied to be a mentor, but when I said, I think there's something very specific about what you know and what you do that could help this specific person, it like elevates like this. A couple different people that I've had this situation, they were like, I never would have even considered that I was in a position to mentor somebody. And this is a part of a bigger thing that we've talked about for a really long time, Deborah, which is that, I don't think this is a whole other topic, but we're better than we think we are. We're more powerful than we think we are. And we know more than we think we know. And we are more capable than we know of. So when a person who's been doing a job for 20 years says, I don't think I know enough, it's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You've been doing this job for 20 years. Of course you do. So, whether it's formal or informal, mentorship and being a mentor and getting a mentor is a life-changing experience.
Once you have mastered the beginning of the skills, or have moved further along, it's time to kick it up a notch. Don't Don't rest just because you've done, maybe I learned about those tools in 2 months. That doesn't mean, I mean, it could mean, okay, I checked off my goal and look at me and I don't have to do anything else. Or it could be, well, now I have 6 months to go and learn and up my skills and try something out of my comfort zone. For example, if I take this video tutorial and I learn how to make little animations in After Effects or something, well, put it out into the world. Maybe I'll use it for a video and just, really like launch my new career set. And of course, it should go on your resume and all that other stuff. Part of this accountability mode is to evaluate your progress. Is it 8 months and I still don't know what those tools do? Then I haven't done a good job, but I still have 4 months to make it up. So do not let yourself out of it if you make this goal. Again, nobody's coming for you. We don't do it. There isn't an Adobe fairy coming to my house to make graphics for me. Either I have to continue paying freelancers, which I don't have a problem with as long as there's money. But when there's not, if I want my graphics to look better, I am going to have to do something about that. So set aside a time and just celebrate the victories. If I've learned all the tools, I could be really happy about that. It's obviously something I'm hyper focused on because I don't know them and I see them in Adobe all the time. And they could probably be helping me. So adjust your speed, focus on the things that are super important, and just keep moving forward like the shark. And then the last thing is what I mentioned before. Once you have your new skill, whatever it might be, or once you have your goal, if Kelly's gone through everything, then she's ready to plan a speech or try to apply to TED, to speak at a TEDx or a TED Talk or something. But the whole point is that now that you have this skill, you go out in the world and you use it. You put it on your resume. You tell everybody you have this new skill, this new certification, whatever it might be. You be proud of it, and you let everybody know that you have invested in, making things better for yourself, making yourself more valuable, and making yourself more valuable to your company. So, those are all the slides that we had. I'm going to send those to everybody who registered for the session today. We're going to stop the recording, and everyone who's here, we're going to stay for a little discussion. So thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, empower long and prosper.